Hello, you wonderful people, and today we're going to start a new series of building our front end with Astro.js. This is amazing. I'm so excited. Astro.js is awesome because with just HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, you could build amazing websites that are SEO friendly and load super fast. If you haven't tried Astro, this is the perfect tutorial for you. Our Astro project is going to be this basic website, which is going to have a landing page. It's going to have a bunch of different dynamic pages, and we're also going to have a blog section. The blog section is going to have pagination, and you'll be able to select a detailed article and see the detailed content, which is awesome. And the most important part, when you build this website, you're going to have your own backend where a non-technical user could easily add articles and content to your website, which is amazing. So as a developer, once you finish this website, you don't need to add content. Your content editor or the person you build this website will have this amazing admin panel powered by Strapi where they could add, modify their own content to the website. And if you've never used Strapi, don't worry. I have an amazing crash course that you could find freely on my YouTube channel that walks you through everything you need to know to build the backend that we are going to consume. If you have no interest in building the Strapi app, don't worry. I'll show you how to set it up locally. And more importantly, I'll also provide you an API endpoint. So if you just want to focus on the Astro piece of our application, you'll be able to follow along regardless. But I would really recommend check out the Strapi crash course, build your own backend, because in the future, we're going to use that same backend after finishing this Astro course, how to create a Next.js application powered by our same backend. So with that being said, I am going to show you how to set it up the project locally so you could have access to it. And that's exactly what we're going to do now. All right, here I am in my terminal. I'm going to make directory where we're going to set up our project. I'm going to call it Astro/crash course. Perfect. We're going to CD into our project and clear the screen. And now we're going to navigate to my GitHub, which I'll link in the description below, but it's my first name, last name, and the repo is called Paul's Strapi Crash Course. I'm going to go ahead, click on the code button. I have GitHub CLI installed, but we're going to do it the old way. I'm going to hit HTTPS and I'm going to copy the URL. And here I'm going to type git clone and paste in my URL. And for this, we're going to call this server. This is going to be our backend. Go ahead and do that. Now let's clear the screen. Now let's change directory into our newly pulled project. And if we do ls, we could see that we have all of our Strapi files here. You notice that we have our seed data file that we're going to use to start with some data. So your project will match exactly the same data as I have. And if you build your own project following the course, you might have your own data, but that's okay. You can use either this project or the project you build following my Strapi 5 crash course because this is the same exact project. And first thing I'm going to do is run yarn to install all the dependencies. Once all the dependencies are installed, I'm going to open my project in VS Code. And here you're going to see we have a .env.example file. What we're going to do, we're going to copy it and we're going to create a new file called .env. And inside here, we're going to paste all of our text. You could go ahead and modify the keys, the token. It basically expects a string. If you keep it as this, it is still gonna work, but it's nicer if you modify it to something that is hard to guess. And now in my terminal, I'm going to run yarn build to build our project first, clear the screen, and then I'm going to run yarn dev to start our project. This is going to go ahead and start your project at localhost 1337. We need to create our first admin user. And again, this is all local to your computer, so you could give whatever names that you would like. And I'm going to go ahead and add my email here and my super secure password, which is monkey1234, because obviously this is the most secure password you could possibly have. And again, because we're doing this locally, this is perfectly okay. And click Let's Start button. And you will be greeted by the Strapi admin. Notice if you go to the content manager, We could skip the demo here. You have no content, no articles. So now it's time for us to seed our data. I'm going to stop my server, doing Control-C, clear the screen, and if you do ls, we remember that we have our seed data.tar.gz file. So in Strapi CLI, we could say yarn Strapi import -f for file, and let's point to our seed data and click enter. This is going to go ahead and say we're going to import new data, so we're going to delete any existing data that you have prior, which is perfectly fine because we don't have any data. We're just going to click Y and click enter. This is going to go ahead and import all of our data. Now, if we restart our project running yarn dev, go back to our Strapi admin, and boom, now you have your articles, your authors, your pages, all your content that we need to start building our Astro frontend. And again, if you're curious how to build this project on your own, you could check out my Strapi 5 crash course on my YouTube channel. I'll also link it in the comment. But with that being said, the last thing we want to see is how do we get data from our API. So if we go here to settings and we navigate to users permission, take a roles, we're going to have our public setting here. If I click on it, we're going to see that we have our articles, and I already enabled the permissions for articles, authors, our global page, our landing page, and our pages, our tags, and so on. So if we take a look at articles, we're going to look at find. If we make a GET request to our articles endpoint, we should see our content. So let's give it a try. In VS Code, I have the Postman extension, which allows me to make HTTP requests. Let's click on new HTTP request, and here I'm going to say HTTP localhost 1337 API articles. That's our endpoint. And when I click send, you're going to see that we have our working API with all of our data that we're going to consume by our Astro application. So now that you have your Strapi application set up with all of your content, in the next video, just kidding, we're going to do it right now. We're going to set up our Astro frontend so we could hit the ground running. I'm going to go ahead and copy this command from their website that you could find at astro.build in my terminal. And after shutting down my server, I'm going to go ahead, type clear so we start fresh, and I'm going to cd into the root of our project. And now what we're going to do, we're going to paste in our npm create Astro latest app. And I'm going to click enter. This is going to walk us through some steps. I'm going to click enter for yes, and it's going to go ahead. It's going to start the launch sequence. Houston, let's create a new project. Let's do that. So first, let's give it a name. And this is going to be our client project. So I'm going to call it client. And do we want a basic helpful starter project? It's recommended. So we're just going to click yes. Yes, install dependencies. No, don't initialize a repo because we're going to do it ourselves. Nice. Once everything is done, if we cd into our client and run yarn dev, we will start our Astro project. It's going to open at localhost 4322, and bam, we now have our basic Astro project running. So I'm going to stop our project for just a second, and I'm going to open it in VS Code. And here's our Astro project. We'll take a look at all the files as we continue building our project, but most important part, we're going to work in the source folder. We will explain all the different folders as we continue building our projects. But for now, we know that we have our Astro client working, we have our Strapi backend, and now we're ready to start building our projects. So before we do that, I'm going to cd into the root of my project, and I'm going to cd into the server project. I'm going to clear the screen just so it's easier to see. Because you got this repo from my GitHub, it is still pointing at my repository. I want this to be your own repository, and I'm going to set up a new repository for this project. So in the server folder where we install Strapi, I'm going to do rm-rf.git. Now I'm going to cd to my root of my project because I'm going to keep everything in the repo. And in my GitHub, I'm going to click on new, and I'm going to select Paul, and I'm going to create a new repository called Astro Strapi Crash Course. And I'm going to go ahead, click on create repository. Once that's done, I'm going to go ahead and copy all of this here. And in my terminal, I'm going to go ahead and paste it in. And then I'm going to do get status. Okay, we should have our client and server folder. I'm going to do get add, get commit with a message. And we're going to say initial commit. And we're going to get push. Nice. And now if I refresh my GitHub, you're going to see that you have your repo with both your Astro client, your server, and we're ready to go. And what I'm going to do in this video series, because I had lots of good feedback, is that everybody wants to have a branch for every lesson. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to do get branch. I'm going to call it 001 lesson. And I'm going to check out that branch. Well, I got to learn to type first, but I'm going to check out that branch. Now that I'm in that branch, I'm going to get push up origin 001 lesson end. And this is going to go ahead and create a separate branch. So this way you could take a look at what we accomplished in each lesson and compare it with your code. But with that being said, congratulations. We set up our server backend, our Astro client, and set up our repo. And now we're ready to hit the ground running. And I'll see you in a few. Go ahead, take a quick break, have a little treat, because we have so much more to do.